Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to the Get Up and Dad podcast, the show where we interview interesting parents doing interesting things. That could be anything from a super busy tech dad to a busy business mommy blogger.
Let's get up and dad!
So today we have on the show the hilarious Sean Hegarty. Who is Sean Hegarty? He is well known for creating his online personality, Rodney. He has his own podcast with his wife, Hanging with the Hegartys. And most importantly, he's a dad. So Sean, thanks for joining us on the show. I really appreciate you coming in. Can you first start off by telling us how many kids you have and how old are they?
I've actually got this written down. Give me a second. So I've got 3 boys.
Okay.
James, Charlie and Tom, and they're 15, 12 and 10.
Awesome.
So
Awesome.
Yeah, so they're a great bunch of lads. I've had 3 kids now for as long as I can remember, and haven't slept in 15 years, maybe more than that.
Okay. Oh, I know how that is.
It's
So it never goes away?
It's intense. Never goes away. Even when they get older too, you're like, maybe I'll get part of my life back. And then just all of a sudden it's like, will you drop me off here and then pick me up 20 minutes later and then drop me over here and then pick me up an hour later and then pick the other one up here and then you have to drop the other one off there. And it's pandemonium all the time. So yeah, it's enjoyable though. It's a rewarding job, isn't it? You couldn't even call it a job. It's unfortunately you don't get paid for it, which I feel like you should, but I love it. Like, yeah. I'm sure you feel the same.
Yeah, I mean, I'm coming from a different perspective because, you know, my kids are younger. So, I mean, you're
just starting off.
I'm just starting off. So, I mean, see that whole dropping kids off and stuff and all.
You're not there yet?
I mean, I'm not there yet. But, I mean, there must be a huge difference between them being more independent now in terms of...
Yeah, you know. The only thing is, though, most of the time, all my kids want to do is just play Xbox and PlayStation and watch YouTube and things like that. And they're getting to the point where they're just really lazy. They're like... millennial children, is that the right term?
Yeah.
And they're just, everything's just technology, everything's just how can I just move my fingers and nothing else. So they're just lying just in a coma just all day, just pressing buttons, and I have to like constantly be like, we need to exercise, we're doing the mornings, we're going camping, we're doing this. And see, to be honest, for the first maybe 5 or 10 minutes of the journey or getting them out of the door is the hard bit, but you know, you just sort of duct tape their mouths, you know, handcuff them, put them in the back seat, and then you take the duct tape off 10 minutes later and they're completely fine. You know, once they come round, they're a bit dazed and stuff, but once they come
sometimes
round,
it needs to be done.
It has to be done.
I mean, it's really interesting you said that. I can remember a friend of ours, Dermy, he once said to me, I'm really glad I grew up in a time where there was no mobile phones.
Big time.
I mean, what do you think the difference is? Like, my kids probably wouldn't be using that as much as what your kids would because they're older, but what do you think would maybe be the differences between us growing up and like kids growing up now with social media? And
I think kids are more or less robbed of their childhood now and their innocence. You know, like I feel like it's got to the point now where when we were kids, you would ask your parents a question if you were lucky enough to have parents. If you asked them a question and they were like, oh, this is the answer, and you were like, okay, Dad, no problem, thanks for telling me. You know, whereas now your kid asks you a question and you're like, he's going to ask Alexa the exact same question in 30 seconds and she's going to be right to the point, like, and I'm just going to be sitting there just being like,
or you could be wrong.
I know. And kids now, they're just like, Siri, do you know what's the answer to this question? So that they almost like they've lost a bit of respect for you before they've even got it. Do you know what I mean? So it's harder to sort of get that. So I think the harder or the longer you can keep them away from it, the more your whole family will benefit from it. But at the same time, kids are going into school, everyone has social media. My son's 15, he's constantly on Instagram, and I'm like, it's not real life. It's a show reel for people. It's showing you the best of everything. It's not showing you their downside, even though it's got to the point now where some influencers are like, here's all my flab, you know, trying to be real. But at the same time, they're doing that because that's almost like in at the minute. But I would just advise parents to just stay away from social media, keep their kids away from it, and just give them a childhood, because we're just going to end up just on recliners.
Yeah, I mean, it's very interesting that you said about taking the kids up in the mornings, because for me, that's partly what Get Up and Dad is kind of about, is like getting up and going and doing things. And I mean, I'm glued to social media too, and it's hard for me to say, get off that iPad, or do you know what I mean?
But it's hard not to, isn't
it's hard
it?
not to, because I mean, they're going to be growing up with that, and if they don't know how to use it, then they're going to be growing up with a disadvantage too.
That's it, yeah.
So for me, it's kind of like finding a balance. And
I know. Like I have family members too, like, in-laws and stuff, and they do struggle with modern technology and social media, and you can tell that it irritates them. They just can't figure it out, and I'm just waiting on the day where I get to the point where my kids come up to me and they're all, can you press play on this Justin Bieber 3D animation thing for me? And I'll just be like, where do you turn it on? One of those things. But in the meantime, I'm just trying to stay on top of it every week. I'm like, right, what's number one here? Because I need to know this, number one, the charts. I need to know, so my kids think I've still got it, just that little bit. But there's going to be a time where you're just going to be like, I know nothing anymore. Everything I know is like it's going to be the shift of the technology, and it's just going to it's just going to be over your head, and you just won't care. But even like everything is starting to change now, and I heard somewhere that once you get over 30, I think it is, that you stop listening to modern music, and you know less and less of the modern artists, and you sort of have your time there. So it's weird the way our parents were growing up, and they had like Elvis and Johnny Cash and things like that, and then we had like your Slipknots and your Tupacs and your Biggies and your P Diddy's and Puff Daddy's and things like that. So it's weird now, you see all these people like Post Malone and stuff for kids, and you're like, is this seriously your role model? I know ours got shot every weekend, do you know what I mean? But at the same time, theirs are now like tattoos and green hair and everywhere pierced, and
I kind of feel like I was my parents whenever I was growing up. Now it's crazy.
I know.
So, see, when your kids grow up, how are you going to tell them the story of how you got to where you are today and what you're doing?
Because stand-up comedy's my bread and butter. So for me, I wouldn't want my kids to do what I'm doing, because it's a complete mind F, right? It's really, 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 really stressful. Like every day you're telling yourself, no, you are funny, just go and be funny, and stand up in front of maybe 5 stag and hen parties and groups of mates. When groups of mates are together, they're almost bulletproof. There's always like the lead guy of the group, and he's the leader and the funny guy, and everyone looks at him of when the next round's coming and things like that. Whereas when I was growing up, it was just, I was the shy one and I was out of the way and stuff. So for me, doing stand-up, it was almost like not an attention thing, but it was like I need to prove my worth. I was a middle child, so it was like, the big brother, you'll get what he's getting when you're at his age, but you're never his age because he's always a couple of years older. And then the young one's the baby, so it's like, he needs all this here. So it's almost like a way you go and play in the middle of the road. But you get this certain point where you're just like, I need to prove myself here. I need some form of acceptance or something, and I kind of like to make my kids feel, how would you say it, like just important and accepted, and anything goes, and just sort of bring them up in ways where I wasn't. It was almost like, as you said, Dermy, me and him, we're cousins, myself and Dermy. Dermot McConaughey, who's one of Ireland's best spray painters, graffiti artists. And me and him would talk regularly just about like our upbringings and family and things like that. And we came from a family where we had, like, our mums were sisters, and we had 14 aunties and uncles on one side, and then on my dad's side I had 16. So I had like 30 aunties and uncles before any of them married, before any of them had kids, before any of them had grandkids. So I have cousins that I get Facebook requests, and I have people that I've never met before, and their surname's Hegarty, and I'm like, are you adding me because we have the same surname, or are our parents siblings? Do you know what I mean? So I feel like I'm getting miles away from the question here. I'll do that, but just cut my mic or whatever, whenever you want. But so me and Dermy would chat regularly just about upbringings and stuff. And when our parents were kids, I feel like they were sort of conveyor belted along. It was like nobody had that much money. It's not like nowadays where you can live outside your means with credit cards and things like that. and they just like, they were just sort of fed, and as long as you had what you needed, away you go. Do you know, we have 13 or 15 more that we need to cater for here, and I feel like our parents were sort of not given as much as they probably should have got, or as much as kids of today got. So I feel like as that sort of gets closer and closer now to the modern day, it's getting better. Parenting's getting better. People know what to do. People want to give their kids everything that they didn't have. So with my kids, I want to tell them the world's their oyster, and I do. I tell them every day. I'm like, you know, don't get me wrong. Like, you can't do anything easily. Everything comes at a cost. You have sacrifices. Like, I've been married before as well. I have 3 boys to my first marriage, and that sort of went to the point where it was just like there was no understanding there. There was no encouragement, or, you know, things like that. There was no support. It was I feel like I needed to be with someone who was in that field. And then I met my wife now, Diona, who's an actress. And when we got together, it was just like, this is it. We've just clicked here, like 2 floor tiles, you know, together. And we genuinely feel like we just belong together now because of everything that comes with each other. Although we try and encourage the boys to follow their dreams and do what they want to do, we also want them to sort of do university. Like, I never got to do university. You know, I dropped out of school after 5th year, and I kind of want them to just sort of work hard and try and teach them how to work hard. And we've got to the point now where my 15-year-old son, like, we used to, my dad last week got him to cut his grass, but he has a drive-on lawnmower, and it's not a big lawn, it's about the size of this room, and it took him maybe 4 laps. And my dad was all, there's a fiver. And I was like, we can't do that anymore. He's trying to get a job, but he's not actually looking for a job. He's like, I've searched online. And you're like, you're 15, you're not going to get a job online. You have to go and ask a few places, work at a farm, whatever you need to do. But all he's been used to is just, I'll do this 10-minute job, and my dad will give me a fiver for cleaning the car, or for washing the car, or for cutting the grass out the back. But now we've got to the point where it's like, right, being 15, the pay is like $4.37 an hour or $4.73 an hour. So that's what we're going to do from now on. If it takes you 15 minutes to cut the grass, you get paid £1, whatever it is. So I'm just trying to teach them, like, hard work and just be whatever you can be, whatever,
but still go for what you want.
Like, my son's like, I want to be a professional footballer. I'm like, we've had a gym membership for you for 1.5 years. You've been 4 times. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know. It's trying to manage.
You want to encourage them, but
their
you
expectations.
Also want reality too. They watch a lot of, like, YouTube vloggers and stuff, and people playing Call of Duty and Minecraft and Fortnite and things like that, which Fortnite is the devil. Keep your kids away from Fortnite. They see that there, and they're like, but these guys all live in mansions, and they're making all these videos where they're filling their rooms full of soft balls and, you know, things like that. And you're like, that's the 0.1% of vloggers that you actually that get to experience that life. Everybody else is struggling every single day. Everybody's working hard and never gets seen, you know.
I know. And I mean, like, from my perspective on that case is, you don't actually see the amount of hard work that goes into those things as well, in terms of the vloggers and what people are actually doing online. For me, I mean, I watch all the behind the scenes with the vloggers, and I know how, like, I do video as well, so I know how much hard work it is, and how much time and prep it takes, and how much hard work it actually gets to the point where that's all they need to do.
Big time. Like, I did the Power video last year in the Ulster Hall. It was a 2-day event, and it's on this August as well. It's brilliant. If you were there last year,
I was
weren't
there
you?
last year, yeah.
And I was hosting the 2-day event, and it was all these, like, vloggers and, you know, content creators from around the world, all just descending into Belfast. And it was fascinating to just see how they work and how they go about their day. But every single one of them just couldn't switch off the whole time they were there. They were vlogging, they were getting selfies with people. They were just, it was this whole different world where they just had to submerge themselves into that world. And that's the world that you probably want when you're starting out. But is that, like, does it reap the benefit? Do you reap the benefits from having that never switching off? Like, I don't switch off as a comedian, because I'm constantly breaking down conversations, and because I do short one-liner jokes, a lot of my stuff's wordplay and puns and things like that. So I'm trying to always break down conversation, but I like to think that I can switch off every now and again too, whereas I feel like those lads can't, you know.
Can't, yeah.
They're about to fart in the bath, they're pressing record and holding the screen up, do you know what I mean? It's like, relax, man, have a break.
It can get intense.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's just in that kind of area. I think people who are completely submerged in those types of work, especially creative industries, they first of all, they need to be, because you need to be constantly keeping up to date, staying with what's relevant. I mean, even keeping the dates, things like, oh, Mother's Day is coming up. For you, you're probably thinking, I need to get some jokes ready. Yeah. I'm thinking, right, who needs Mother Day material for promotional stuff so we can start? Do you know what I mean? So I mean, it's constantly trying to think, and I can see the pressures in that. And again, what everybody else is seeing and what our kids are seeing is that looks like they just hit record for a few minutes and uploaded it when it wasn't.
They're seeing the finished product when
exactly.
Yeah, like from making comedy videos and stuff too. Like I've made 10-second Snapchat videos that have hit near 1 million views, and then I've spent maybe 4 days filming and editing a music video that's maybe got somewhere between 5 and 20 or 30,000 views. And you just, I don't know if you ever get that balance or you figure out the correct way to do stuff. It's pop culture, it's what's hot right now, what hits that spot at that exact time. And sometimes you can get something out that's just literally has took you 20 seconds where you've thought of something, you've got your Snapchat filter out and you've pressed record and you've filmed yourself saying it, and it just skyrockets and it goes viral for you. But then there's times as well where like that maybe happens once every 6 months or once every year, and the rest of the time you're making stuff. And like I've got to the point now where I make videos and after 10 minutes, if it's not doing well, I just delete it and just pretend it never happened, you know. Yeah. But there's times I've thought as well, I'm just going to upload this joke to Twitter, but I'll leave it for maybe 2 or 3 hours and just forget about it. And then I come back and it hasn't done that well. And I'm like, I'm insisting on leaving it. And then a celebrity or someone retweets it and it just skyrockets then, you know, and you're like...
I sometimes see in terms of content...
What do you do?
Sometimes it's just really hard to pick up on what people will want to hear or want to see.
Exactly.
And you know, that's something I've also find difficult. What are people going to find interesting?
I know.
For me, I'm like, this is the best thing in the world, but the audience is maybe just not.
Yeah.
Paying attention.
Yeah, but I find as well, like with podcasting and stuff too, it's just not enough to have one thing. Do you know, I feel like everything you need is like, you know, there's maybe 2 female comedians, but they talk about all their sexual partners. Do you know what I mean? So it's not enough just 2 female comedians. You need something else, or 2 male comedians. You can't just talk about comedy all day. You have to have this other sort of element to it. It's like they're getting so niche too, because the podcast market is just growing every single day, that it's so hard to sell yourself now on just one thing. Like if you're an expert in this one thing, it's almost not enough now. It's like Joe Rogan, you know, it's like he's brilliant at so much, but he needs other people, I think, to be guests. I think if he did a podcast on his own, would it be as good? Would it be, you know, it's almost that sort of...
Because when you bring another person on, what happens is you almost have that agree with him, which backs up what his opinion is, or there's the disagree, which will encourage debate and will make other people think, and which works both ways. In that case, for me anyway. So kind of went off on one there in terms of content and stuff. What would you say is your favorite get up and dad thing to do with the kids? You know, what's the thing where you go, you know what, it's time to just stuff everything, let's go?
I think being a comedian, I find myself being really creative, not always like in a funny way or a good way, but I always have to be creating something, and I try and that rubs off on my kids every now and again as well. Like last summer I wasn't going to the Edinburgh Fringe, and I was like, I want to do something worthwhile and something creative, because I'm not going over there, because every time I turn on Twitter it's going to be all these comedians that I follow going, come and see my show tonight, and I'm like, you know, FOMO, what fear of missing out, why am I not there? And last summer I was like, right, I'm not going. I've started watching loads of like survivalist videos, a lot of sort of people out in the wilderness, and I've started watching this guy, Totally Awesome Outdoors, TA Outdoors, a guy called Mike in England, and he built his own pallet wood cabin. And I was like, do you know what, I'm like, for months I was like, I wonder, should I post online and like post on Facebook and see if somebody can sort me out with pallets. Bit the bullet one day, and I was like, I'm just gonna go for it. Like, now's the time to do it. I've got a couple of weeks free where I'm not doing much. Posted on Facebook. Within an hour, my mate had sourced me like as many pallets as I wanted.
Brilliant.
Got my dad in with his trailer, went and picked a load up, got dropped back at the house. Went to Screwfix and bought like a saw and a few different wee bits and pieces because I had nothing. I had no toolbox or anything. And 2 weeks later, I had my own pallet wood cabin that I have in the corner of my garden now, and it's amazing. It's got everything I've ever wanted in it, and it's like being out in the wilderness, but it's almost got a few home amenities as well.
Brilliant.
And I got my kids involved at the start of that. I was like, let's do something together. Do you know, he was making it with his dad, the guy that was watching the YouTube tutorials, and I was like, I want that with my kids. You know, I want to give them something different. So we started building this cabin. After an hour, they each drop off. You know, just can't be bothered. No interest. Yeah. So 2 weeks later, I'm standing there sweating in the middle of August, just building this cabin on my own. And my kids are like, Dad, do you want to play football? I'm like, I'm finishing this cabin that we all started, and I'm finishing on my own. So I like to do things like that. Last week we built like a hut. I have like a big cut down my thumb. Myself and my son, we have a bit of a forest out the back of our house, and I was like chopping down wood with an axe, and I just chopped it and it just went straight into my thumb, and it's still quite sore and stuff. But myself and my son, we went and gathered loads of like bendy sticks, and we were going to start making almost like a hut. It's like a kind of like an igloo shape, but once you get the outside structure, you just cover it in industrial cling film the whole way up, and it makes it completely like waterproof and stuff. And I started building that for my son, and you know, if he wants to bring his mates around, if it's raining, if he wants to have his lunch outside and stuff, he can sit in that and whatever. And we went over to Homebase, and it was like 20 quid for industrial cling film. I was like, let's just buy the stuff in pound stretcher. Went in, bought like 3 rolls of that, brought it home, wind it round, just started ripping, started tearing, the wind was blowing it away. And now we just have like this structure outside our house, and my kids are like, no one's going to play in that. Do you know what I mean? But we just try and do things all the time. I try and sort of, I've always liked the outdoors. We were always raised on camping and doing like walks and stuff, and it is good for your mind. It's very healthy, especially mental health and people comparing themselves to everybody else. Do you know, nowadays it's good to just sort of get out in the open, get some fresh air, listen to the birds. You know, just build a wee fort, build a wee hut, have super noodles out of a can or whatever, or, you know, out of a flask. Just get out and experience. Like, our country it's phenomenal. It's only a couple of years ago I was like, let's start going to all these little sort of nooks and crannies around the country, and the places we've seen and the places we've been to, like just at the edge of the coast and stuff, and the beaches and the walks, and it's an amazing country. Just people are so miserable all the time. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know. I mean, people don't realise what's on their doorstep. Like, we have locally so much for my age group of kids in terms of parks and nature reserves and stuff. And, and there's so much there to get out and actually do.
Big time.
And it's interesting you said there in terms of going out and enjoying the forest and stuff. I've started following a guy called Outdoor NA. What he does, you know, he's just kind of started up, and he's kind of trying to promote what happens in other countries is doctors are now prescribing physical activities to tackle mental health, and one of the things is nature walks, because getting back into nature walks is to kind of, I don't know the ins and outs, I'm not a professional in this, but it's helping with mental health, because you're getting back to nature and you're getting away from all of the stuff and going back to kind of that primal kind of instincts. And it's just interesting that you said the same thing there as well. Because, you know,
there's a place as well, I think it's in Tandragee, Clare Glen. Have you ever heard of it?
Yep.
A lovely big river runs through it, you know, nice sort of pathway alongside it. There's like a caravan site up there too, and I would take my family up there every now and again, and it's lovely. You've Gosford Forest Park, you've Castlewellan, you've Tullymore Forest, you've the, what do you call the place with the trees? It's like not Lord of the Rings. Dark Hedges. You have the North Coast, you have White Rocks Beach, you could so go on and on and on and on, and people just need to get out and use it. It's amazing. Like when we were growing up too, my dad, right, we had like a back field outside our house, and it was like people had threw their scrap rubbish and lit bonfires, and it was just overgrown and stuff. My dad got the council down to cut the grass, and then went to our local park and asked the park ranger if he could borrow his white marker for the football pitches. And my dad marked out a football pitch himself, and then he sourced scaffolding bars, got them welded and stuff to make posts, got fishing net to be a net, and before you know it, we had our own makeshift like full football pitch. Like, it was class. And my dad organised like football tournaments for people around the estates that live near us, and got medals and trophies and everything, got player of the tournament awards and things like this, and just made like this whole scene by himself. And now there's like a 4G mugga pitch on it that just the council have put down, and there's basketball, you can play tennis, you can play badminton, volleyball, you can play football on it, you know. And there's all these things are now cropping up, and you go to Craigavon Lakes and you have the BMX trail, you have the BMX sort of wee circuit that you can do as well. And I feel like now, like back in when we were growing up, you had very little, but you made the most of what you had. Whereas nowadays, kids just have everything on their doorstep, but they're just more interested in playing games. Nice,
I know.
Yeah,
I know.
It's sad.
I know. And again, for me, get up and dad is trying to like, get up and go and do stuff. I mean, I'm all up for social media. I'm all up for games. I'm not saying no to it, and for me,
it's limitation. That's
what
it is.
Yeah, it's almost like a mental health thing as well. Because if I want to teach my kids, you need to go out and do stuff. You can't sit all day in the house. You need to go out and be active, exercise, socialise, and do this, or it's going to affect mental health, you know.
Of course, yeah. Like I talked earlier about the Fortnite game, and apparently it was made to work alongside like a child's sort of attention span, and it would get them in where like the games are to a set time specifically, so that a child would be like, that's not long enough, I have to play it this little bit more, and then they start again, and the game then is this extra amount of time that they like fully have to like focus on. And I let my kids play it at the start because, you know, everyone in school started playing it. My kids were like, can we get Fortnite, can we play it? And I was like, yeah, whatever, you know, as long as you play it like an hour or two at a time, whatever it may be. And before long, my kids were like, I was like, right, you have to come off it now. And they're like, no, at the end of this game. And you're like, no, you have to turn it off. Like, we're all sitting at the dinner table waiting on you to come in and eat. And they're like, no. And then by the time they come off it, they're wired, they're aggressive, and they're, you know, they're really just buzzing off it to the extent where it's detrimental. And then all these sort of studies and stuff came out about the game and how bad it was for kids. And this girl in England was on like the front page of a newspaper where her mum and dad would tuck her in, good night or whatever, close the door, she would get up and put Fortnite on, and she was like soiling herself in bed, and she was like falling asleep in school the next day, and she's like smelt, and it's just so bad for her. It got to the point then where I think the parents actually took Fortnite to court, or, you know, they had to get her into rehab and stuff to overcome it. And it's just it's all about limitation. You know, I say to my kids, I'm like, you know, the devices don't go on until like 8 o'clock at night. At least then, you know, they can wind down for an hour, they can play stuff or watch stuff before bed. But it's so hard because even my son, like the 15-year-old, I said to him, I'm like, go and meet your mates and go to the park, go play football, go have a big game of rounders. You know, there's some money, go to the shopping centre or go up the town with your mates and have a bit of fun. And he's like, no one's going out. And I'm like, so what are all your mates doing? And he says, they're just sitting about and playing their Xboxes or whatever. Yeah.
I know, and to a certain extent that scares me, you know. And for me, it's just trying to teach them there's other things out there, you know.
But that's it. Like, there's like, I know you guys create like all this amazing content online, BNL, and I've seen like the videos that you guys produce, and it makes you want to go to all these events because they're so well produced, but the videos make them look amazing too, and the drone footage and everything that you do. And it's just trying to get people to see that and actually go and do it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's it. Like,
but they're two different things. It's just it's so hard. I don't envy kids nowadays growing up. I really don't.
I know. So, from your own perspective, what are you highly interested in right now? What kind of things is kind of ticking your boxes?
Well, last night, myself and my wife, I told you before we started, we bought a caravan.
Right.
So
Okay.
this was just like it was a few £100 online, and we were like, we sort of have an interest in interior design per se. You know, she would be more into the painting side of things and the color schemes and things like that, whereas I'd be more interested in, like, I've been watching a lot of tiny home videos. I don't know if you've seen any on YouTube, but there are millions of them, and it's this whole sort of movement that's been started the past few years where people are just downsizing. Like, you have millionaires and you have people who have all the money they need and they have the high flying job, and they just exchange it and cut their life right down into this sort of, whether it's a shipping container, whether it's a caravan, whether it's something else. And I'm not saying we're going to do that, but we have an interest in just that line of, you know, living and stuff. And especially because the two of us are on the road so much, with her being an actress and a comedian and a voiceover artist, and me being a comedian, presenter, host, dabble in acting, things like that. We're always here, there and everywhere, and we do like festivals and stuff together. And it would just be nice to sort of live somewhere that's just mental. Do you know what I mean? It's not a house that, like, just I've never been someone in my entire life. I pride myself on just never following a crowd. Like, I've never done the ice bucket challenge. I've never done, you know, all the things that go along the lines of that. And I always sort of think of myself as a bit differently, and like, I don't want to always do this thing just because everyone else is doing it. And one of those things is living in a house and paying this huge mortgage and paying for your car and paying for all these things that you never get to actually experience because you're away doing this big job that's stressful and involves you to actually never experience your nice things because you're away trying to earn the money to pay for them all. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, if you downsize all that and think about what you actually need, it's not that much. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. It's really not. Like, like when I was talking about Joe Rogan as well, he had Dan Bilzerian on one time, who's like this big multi-millionaire. Instagram posts with bikini women hanging off his arm, whining and dining in the fanciest of restaurants. And he said, like, he's got to the point where he lives the high life so extremely that he can't find happiness anymore. He can't get that buzz that he used to find on going to a nice restaurant or staying in an amazing hotel or going to a nice holiday destination, because he lives that life 24/7. He has chefs that come in and cook for him, and he has almost a pick of whatever girl he wants at that time. And you're like, what? Like, people crave that lifestyle, but what are they actually craving? Do you know what I mean? Like, what? Yeah. Like, it's, once you find that, how do you make yourself happy once you get accustomed to that lifestyle? It's
almost like you kind of have to keep building on it sometimes.
Yeah,
you know, once you get something, then you go and get something else.
And like us too, like growing up, sorry to cut you off there, like, we didn't really have much growing up, but my parents still tried to give us everything that we ever could have wanted. And you get to the point where it's your birthday and you get like a football shirt or something, and you're buzzing off it for weeks, and you're wearing it and you think you're the player with the name on the back and things like that. Whereas now you have kids and it's like, all right, let's go and play fuck golf today, and then we'll go to trampolining the next day, and then we'll go and do this. And then it comes to their birthday and they're like, are we seriously just trampolining again? We trampolined a month ago. Do you know, it's like there's no enjoyment anymore. Kids just get everything through at them. They have everything they need.
Yeah, it's available.
And Diona is reading a book at the minute, Darren Brown, called Happy, and he just sort of explores what actually makes people happy. And one of the bits that she made me read in one of the chapters was that if you actually woke up one day and it was like post-apocalyptic and you were the only person on earth, like, you're not going to go and try and find that most expensive car so you can drive it, because you're only driving it because you know it's the most expensive car and you want to show it off to people and you want people to judge you based on that. And it's like, if you were alone in the world, like, what kind of things would you actually go and seek out, like, if humans weren't around anymore? Because most things we do are just to please other humans, or we're just doing them because they're doing them. Do you know what I mean? So it makes you kind of think, like, what would you actually do if you weren't trying to people please all the time?
Yeah, I mean, that's it. Like, sometimes people get caught up so much in trying
and
to
it's social media and it's everything that comes with it. That's why it's like, I'm going to take a big drink.
Go for it.
You should have just got me a normal bottle of water, to be honest.
I meant to get some before I went to the shop.
Unless you were meant to bring in glasses and you forgot, and I'm trying to enact this on my own. Is that what?
Do you want to try and down it all in one go? Do you want to see how far we can go?
Do you know what? I'll end up doing a Joey from Friends, and I'll just cover myself.
Okay, we'll not do that. Maybe just a wee drink then.
What if I like sipped it really slowly and drank the whole thing, and it took me like 20 minutes, and you just filmed the whole thing?
Yeah, let's go for that.
We just speed it up.
Yeah. Not really.
That'll do. Maybe towards the end.
Okay, we'll try it at the end. So,
how are things with you? Let's interview you for a while.
I'm
How are
brilliant,
things?
man.
How are your kids? Are they good?
yeah, all good.
2 girls,
2 boys.
2 boys.
2 boys.
And
So
it was one or the other.
So
Always is, isn't it?
but yeah, all's good with me.
Yeah.
Just working away and doing the whole dad thing.
Do you enjoy it? Do you enjoy being a dad?
Oh, I love it. Like,
Yeah.
Again, for me,
Doesn't equal
it's
money,
what-
does it? You want
what?
paid. You want paid, don't you?
well, I always want paid, you know. I know.
know.
I was always just trying to make, I just try and exploit the kids as much as I can, you know. And I think, no. For me, I always worry about, and this is a big thing, is spending too much time at work and trying to get home and do stuff. And it's what you said there. There's so much available for kids now, and I'm kind of going, am I trying to? You're right. I mean, it's almost better that you don't have as much. So
Yeah.
then, whenever you actually have stuff, you appreciate it more.
Yeah.
And then I kind of worry. But where's that balance? I
know.
where do you find the balance of? Let's go out and do stuff today. Let's do stuff tomorrow. Let's do stuff the next day. And when's the point? Are we spoiling them? I mean, do we give them too much sometimes?
And a lot of parents judge it on how much they spend on their children. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Instead of just how much time they spend with them. Like I would sit with my kids, and I feel like I'm blowing smoke up my own here as if I'm trying to make out that I'm this world life-changing dad. I'm definitely not, like, but I honestly do try my best, and I put my kids first in every circumstance. And like we were over in England last week on holidays, and we brought our car over with us, so we were on like the 8-hour ferry, and we just got pieces of paper out and stuck them together, and we were like, let's just create our own board game. We had a little dice from another like game of Ludo or whatever it was. And we were like, let's just create our own board game, and we drew all the strips and stuff and drew it out whatever way we wanted. And we put like things like maybe I don't know, you've been caught by Michael Jackson, go back 10 spaces, things like that. And we just had this like really fun game. And then when it was finished, we were like, right, what can we do next? Like, rather than sitting and doing all this mundane shit, like kids were sitting on tablets and the parents were just on their phones. It was like, let's think outside the box here and do wee things. And I was like, right, let's do a quiz. Let's do 10 questions each. Like write down 2 questions on sport, 2 questions on geography, 2 on music and film, 2 on general knowledge, things like that, 2 on science and the world. And we all created these 10 questions, and then we passed the question sheets round and we all answered each other's questions. And then we went round one by one, and it sounds like the Waltons here, but we had a great time doing it, and I think it's all about just trying to be creative, and especially for me as well. I always feel like I have to create something. I don't want to buy a game of Monopoly when I can create something myself at home that provides a lot more enjoyment to my kids. And it's just like my kids say to me all the time, they're like, Dad, will you come out and play football with us? And I'm like, I'm 35. Is there another dad in the street that you've ever seen in your life, never mind who has come out and played football with his kids all afternoon? And although I play football and I enjoy it and stuff, it's like at times as well, I think kids need the couple of hours a day playing with kids their own age and socializing, and whether they get into trouble or whatever. I'm like, I say to my kids, I'm like, go and smash a window, go and do something that just isn't sitting on the front step going, I'm not allowed to play my games now. Go and do the things that we did when we were young. Get into a bit of trouble, and I'll pretend I'm annoyed until the policeman goes, and then I'll be all like, off you go and play your game. Obviously don't mean that, but it's just about trying to find that balance, trying to get them out to play with people their own age and socialise, and you having that special time with them as well, like, because I know a lot of people just throw money at their kids, and it's like it's all about social media, and I'm gonna upload photos and go, oh, day out with mummy, spoiled rotten, and you're like, but you're probably on your phone all afternoon. You probably drive down with the radio on full blast, and you're listening to the radio and they're on their device, and nobody talks to each other. It's like, just communicate and teach them something, let them teach you something. do things a bit differently. Just go back to basics, because it's.
I know, exactly.
It's
I mean,
worth it.
sometimes it's just trying to create what's in their imagination as well. Like my son at the minute, he is just mad into cardboard, and he just wants to make everything with cardboard. It's like,
brilliant.
we need, Daddy, can we make a bookshelf today? And I was like, what do you mean? Can we get some cardboard and make a bookshelf for the books that we got from the library? I'm like, yeah, okay, let's go.
Brilliant.
And then it's like, can we make a vending machine? He's obviously watching something on YouTube. And he's getting these ideas. And can we make this and can we make that? And do you know what I mean? But I love the fact that, for me, that's a positive from social media too, because it's like he saw this and he's went, you know what, I want to be creative and I want to do something a wee bit more instead of actually just sitting and consuming it. He wants to go out and do it. Now,
that's it.
If I let him, he probably would consume it all day for the age that he is. But
they don't know any different.
They don't know any different, because
that's where you come in to control that.
Exactly. So, but it's so good to kind of get him that he's doing that, and he's taking those ideas and going, you know what, I'm going to be creative myself. I want to do this. I want to do that, and he's motivated to it. Do you know what I mean?
That's how my son was too. He watched like arts and crafts videos, and he got to the point where he was watching these videos on like things that were made with glue guns, and he was like, mobile phone covers and stuff, and he was like, oh, can we get a glue gun? So we got him a glue gun for Christmas. Well, Santa did. And sat down Boxing Day, and I was like, right, let's do all the things you wanted to make on YouTube, like, let's make them together or whatever. And we got the cling film out and covered a mobile phone, and then he started like squirting the glue gun around the back of the phone to create this phone cover. And it's meant to stick, and you colour it all in or whatever, and then it's a proper like wee phone cover, but it's just stops it from breaking if it falls on the ground. And 20 minutes later it was everywhere. It stuck to the page, stuck to his hand, there's big lines of it like melted cheese, and got to the point where he just was like, that was it. It wasn't how it was on TV, so he just never went back to it since. And then we've used it to like fix shelves and bits of cupboards and things like that, and we sort of almost use it now just like it's a household thing rather than this thing that we bought him because he had this interest in it. But
I mean, it's still good to kind of, for me, even things like that where you take something and you experiment with it, and it's like he's experimenting here. That's what it's all about,
and there's things like YouTube is definitely, like I would watch YouTube now over any sort of TV show or TV channel, because there's just like our toilet broke about 2 months ago, and I was like, I'm not going to phone someone, I'm going to try and get this fixed myself. And it turned out all it needed was like a wee washer, and I went and sourced a washer and fixed it. And I was like, for things like that, it's phenomenal. Like I'd sit down with my kids and I'd be like, right, what can we do? Let's do something together here. And 20 minutes later, you're trying to make an elephant out of a tea towel. Do you know what I mean? It's like wee things like that. It's stuff that like that you would maybe have to get a book out of the library. And even then you mightn't find something like that in it. It's
just more available.
It is literally the World Wide Web. There's everything at your fingertips.
Exactly. So, I mean, you've been doing what you've been doing for the last 10 to 15 years. Okay.
Unfortunately, yep.
See, so I mean, that's creating this online personality, stand-up comedy. I mean, it's tough for me. It looks tough jumping between all of those things, and I mean, you have to go out and get to work yourself. I mean, what have you found most difficult, especially with having to become a dad within that time as well?
Yeah, well, see, as good as it's bad, I have my kids like half the week, so I have them, like 3 nights one week, 4 nights the other week, and they're at their mum's the other time, so we both have them evenly. And although it's great having that time to yourself, it means you can fully invest when the boys are there. When the boys come home to me, then I can maybe spend more time with them. But then I spend so much time with them that it gets to the point that when they go to their mums, I'm busted and I need a day or two off, where I'm just doing nothing. Then I've like one day where I can like, right, you need to get some work done. You cram all your work week into one day, and then the next day the boys are back and you're like full pelt again, playing football or going to the beach or doing whatever you're doing. And it's hard juggling it all, especially being a comedian too. Like as far like with anyone, you're not always at your happiest every single day. Do you know what I mean? No one is. It's almost impossible to be like that. So you have your down days and stuff, and maybe you're just not feeling great, but you have to go and make all these people laugh and pretend that you're happy and funny and stuff. And sometimes that can be quite hard too. But I think a lot of times I need to just think back to 10 years ago when I was maybe, or 11 years ago when I first started doing stand-up, and thinking like, you know, I heard once within the first few months that if you get a good 20 minutes, you can tour the whole world with 20 minutes. And now I have maybe 3 or 4 hours material, maybe more behind me. And I'm like, sometimes you need to just take a step back and just appreciate what you've done and how far you've came. And, you know, social media is the same. Like, although I despise it, I know that there's a market there, that's an audience for me to get people to come to my live shows and come to invest in merchandise or whatever I'm doing or selling. But they all have their pros and cons, every single part of it. You know, there's some class bits where you get like you know, not many people can say they were gigging with Peter Andre last weekend. Do you know what I mean? When we were at the Dalriada Festival.
That's it, like.
Joe or Tommy Kitten, he's 17, is just, you name it. I was on the same bill as them. Saying that, I was in a shed at the back at 15 hours earlier. Do you know what I mean? But you're on the same poster. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it definitely has its ups and downs. Like I get to bring my wife a lot of times if she's quiet, if she doesn't have much work on. She gets to come with me, and, you know, we get like sort of VIP treatment a lot of the time. And, you know, there's a lot of gigs are well paid too, but people think that you're just gigging 5 times a day, 7 days a week, and you're a millionaire, whereas that's not the case. It's impossible to do over here. Mm-hmm. You know, you could go maybe 3 weeks where you have nothing, you have no gigs, and you're sitting at home going, right, what do I do here? Do I sit down and write a couple of jokes? Do I make a video? Do I do a Facebook post? Do I don't know, put together a bit of a show reel? You know, it's like, just you don't know what to do. Then you think of a good joke, and you're like, is this a video? Is it a meme? Is it is it just a worded tweet? And there's just, everything's just juggling everything, trial and error every single day. But at the same time, I could be doing a job that I don't want to do. Mm-hmm. You know, like I started working when I was like 11 years old. I worked in a farm for £1 an hour, and then I chopped sticks in a factory. Then I assembled bikes at a toy shop. Then I was like a water sports instructor. Then I worked in a few shops. Then I worked in a department store underground, doing all the deliveries and stuff. Then I worked in a furniture store. Then I worked doing deliveries. Like I've worked as a cleaner. I feel like every time I say a job, another job I can think of comes to my head. Like, I've done everything. And although I wouldn't change what I'm doing now for the world, it's still a lot of sacrifices came with it. Do you know what I mean? A lot of time and effort and blood, sweat and tears literally have gone into even to getting to where I am now, and I'm still nowhere near where I want to be. Do you know what I mean?
I mean, that's it. Like, it does take a lot of sacrifice to do what you want.
Big time. It really does. Like, and, you know, there's financially as well. There's so much that people don't see behind the scenes where you're sacrificing. Myself and my wife Diona as well, like, spoke about this recently, where we're not part of a community. We don't have this neighborhood of friends and family around us. We don't, you know, we have very few friends between us. We don't go out much. We don't go to bars and clubs, and we don't meet mates and go for weekends away. You know, I have my kids, and we have our time together, and then we do our work and stuff, and that's as far as it goes with us. It's very simplistic. It's very rewarding at times, but at the same time too, it can be lonely. You could be sitting in the house for a week on your own, and you just don't leave the door. Do you know what I mean? Sometimes you're like, I could go and get something in the shop, but what if someone goes, all right, Rodney, let's get a photo with us, or let's do this, or it's just sometimes and then you overthink things. You see people staring at you once or twice, and you're like, you know, do they know me from something? Do you know, do they like what I'm doing? Do they hate what I'm doing? Are they taking a sneaky photo of me behind my back? Do you know, it's like all these things that you're just like, you overthink everything. You end up just not leaving the house every day. Do you know, and it's stressful, like, but at the same time, it comes with the territory. Do you know what I mean? Like, neither of us want to be famous. We just want to have job satisfaction and, you know, be able to be good role models for our kids and our families and nieces and nephews and things like that. But it definitely comes with a price. Like, it definitely does.
Yeah. And, like, obviously, you think the sacrifices are worth it because you're still doing it, or does it get difficult sometimes, or?
Yeah, it definitely does get difficult. Like a lot of times we sort of stop ourselves, and you were like, you know, well, I got to do Ireland's Got Talent, and you know, I won Ireland's Funniest Joke, and you know, things like that. But then there's the days where you don't have any work on and you can't think of a joke, and you're beating yourself up then, you know. So it's just trying to find that balance. And so I think that's why, like, when we said about buying a caravan and stuff, and we're going to like sort of do it up and renovate it and stuff ourselves, I think that's sort of a thing that can give us that sort of healthy, still being creative, but in a completely different form, you know. So we can do that on our downtime rather than sitting in the house beating ourselves up or making a video that no one's ever going to see because you don't have the confidence maybe on that day to put it out, you know, things like that. Yeah,
I know. I mean, like, for me recently, sometimes it feels like I'm just doing, like, I do film production, as you know, so I mean, I'm making films all the time, so sometimes I'm working, and lately I've just been going back to back. It's literally one job, next job, and you don't really see what you're doing. But we did a show reel there recently. It came in and Paddy had just knocked it out, and it was everything we'd done in the last 6 months. And for me, sometimes you just need to sit down and reflect and go, you know what, this is everything that we have done, and you know, it was worth it. It was good, and it's almost difficult too, because you feel like when you look back now, you went, oh, I did do that and I did enjoy it, but at the time it maybe didn't feel as good as what it was, but it actually was really good.
It's almost like in Big Brother, isn't it? It's like when you have the arguments and the fights and the drunken, you know, you fall and hurt yourself and things like that, and then when you're coming to leave the house, they show you your best bits and you're like,
yeah,
you know,
exactly.
You've actually had the most amazing time.
And for me, everyone needs to almost do that. They need to sit down and go, right, what did I do the last 6 months? You know what? It was worth it.
100%, yeah. Because we would be like that as well, where like sometimes you just have to take a step back and go, well, actually I've achieved all these things that I never thought I would be able to do, you know. And sometimes you just have to not even pat yourself in the back, but just be grateful to where you are. And you know, there's things that maybe like, oh, I didn't get that job or whatever, but good things come from that too, you know, because maybe like you weren't ready and stuff, you know. Maybe things like do happen for a reason at times, where try and give you an example, like probably even I think I auditioned for Britain's Got Talent about 4 or 5 years ago, and I was nowhere near ready. It was a video audition. Do you know what it was? I went to Castlecourt one day and I was invited along. Like I applied and they were like, yeah, you know, could you please come along? I think I sent a video and they were like, could you come along and, you know, audition to an editor or a producer or something. I went along, and as I got like up the escalator, it was in like this empty shop, and there was just a queue like the whole way down the shopping centre of like wee girls and people practicing dance moves and you know, fella with a puppet and stuff. And I was like, straight back down the elevator, straight back in the car and home again. And I just knew then I wasn't ready. But then when I went to do Ireland's Got Talent, I was like, do you know what, I am ready now. You know, it's like maybe it just wasn't my time back then to go and sort of pursue that. Yeah. But now I feel like I'm fully ready and I've everything to offer. But then when I went to doing the live semi-final on TV, I did that completely wrong. Do you know what I mean? So now, as bad as it was for me at the time, like I don't think it came across on TV that I didn't have an enjoyable experience. But for me, it wasn't what I can do now. Do you know what I mean? So maybe that had to happen for the next time that I get the opportunity to do something, whether it's live on TV or pre-recorded or stand-up or whatever. I know how to deal with that now, whereas I didn't know how to deal with it at the time. So it's almost like just trying to use the bad times as learning. And
exactly, learn from your mistakes. It's not really mistakes, it's more experience.
Big time. And you know that, you know, like if you're doing something a year, don't expect to be like, don't compare yourself to people who have been doing it 10 or 15 years. And same with me, like I shouldn't be comparing myself to Peter Kay or, you know, people who have maybe been doing it 20 years plus, when they have twice the experience I have, plus they gigged in England and they maybe do 4 or 5 gigs a week, whereas I do maybe 1 every 2 weeks here, you know, on average. So it's like, it's trying to not compare yourself all the time to other people, because everyone's path's different. and just learning your mistakes and just trying to make yourself better and understand that when the time's right, when the opportunity presents itself, you'll run with it and you'll know what to do with it, basically.
Brilliant.
Is that anywhere near what you asked me? I can't even remember.
Yeah.
The last question?
I mean, that's kind of where we're going for, like, you
That's
know.
good,
It's really inspirational to hear those types of things. Do you know what I mean?
Cheers.
So,
would you get a tattooed on your back though? No,
Nah, definitely not.
not.
It's 2019, isn't it?
What?
It's 2019. What do you tell yourself pre-dad with all the experience you have now?
Don't do it. I don't know. A lot of times I beat myself up because my kids want to play the PlayStation or the Xbox, and I'm like, no, you're not playing it, you know. And I think sometimes I need to be a bit more relaxed or lenient. Like, I feel like I am very relaxed and very casual, you know. I think I deal with things pretty well, but there are times where I try and keep my kids away from doing what they really want to do, because I know it's detrimental in the long run, when sometimes it's like, just let them enjoy themselves. It's summer, you know, it's down outside, whatever it may be. Let them have an extra hour or two playing their games, or let them do whatever they want to do, you know, and it means I can do a bit of work and things like that. So I think I would be a bit more relaxed and lenient. And I don't know what else I would do differently. I feel like things are pretty great at the minute. I really do. I feel like things are. I enjoy my time with them, and I know when they come to my house, they feel at home, and they've always felt at home. And you know, it's, although the dynamics different compared to when I was growing up, I feel like for them to have the best version of me, I had to make the decisions that I made in the past. Do you know what I mean? Which maybe for them at the time wasn't the most ideal thing, but in the long run, it has given them the best version of me. Do you know what I mean? Where I am happy and I'm doing the job I love, and I'm whatever else that comes with it. But I don't know. It's a hard one. I feel like
I mean, it is. It's hard to look back and go, I mean, what would I say to myself pre-dad? You know, what I mean,
would you do anything differently?
See, my kids are only 5. It's, I would kind of tell myself, I don't know. I mean, like, it goes back to Dermy. I remember when I was first having my first kid, and I was kind of, I mean, I'm well organised, so I am. I remember Dermy saying to me, Dermy's coming up a lot here, isn't he? Go to Dermy for advice, you know. So
get up in Dermy.
I remember saying to me, don't worry about it, you're organised. And I was organised. When the first baby came out, I was like, let's hear it. I read such and such a book. I had a freaking checklist. Go to the hospital. After 1 month, says whatever I needed to do, you know. So I kind of felt like I was organised. But so when the second one came, I was just kind of going, oh, that's all right, you know. You know what to do. So I wasn't too stressed.
See, the first time when I found out I was going to be a dad for the first time, I was 19 but 20 when he was born, and the first thing I did was I went out and bought a potty.
Okay.
That's how clueless I was. Like, I had no idea. I was still a child myself. I was still growing up. You know, I didn't have much experience. I didn't start going out and socialising or having drinks or anything until I was like 17 and a half. So I had very little sort of life experience by then. I still lived at home with my parents, and I'd never been to university or anything like that. So I just went out and bought a potty thinking, Joe, they'll go to the toilet in this, you know. Obviously they'll use nappies at night time or whatever, but they'll probably go to the toilet in this during the day. And how wrong was I? Like, I think I just used it as like somewhere to keep my spare change for the first maybe 2 or 3 years.
I know.
Do you know what I mean?
I mean, you're going into something that's completely blind. You just don't know.
But that's it. It's trial and error, like everything. You know, you just
exactly.
You can stress yourself out over it. You can beat yourself up over it. You know, but as long as you're doing the right thing by your child and yourself, and you know, as long as you're giving it a go.
Yeah.
And with the internet and stuff too as well, you can research everything. There are things available. There's parenting vlogs and podcasts.
Exactly.
And, you know,
and as organised as I was, and I thought I was, I mean, you're still you still haven't a clue. Do you know what I mean? You're doing stuff for the first time. It's changing a nappy for the first time. It's making a bottle. It's whenever they throw up the bottle when you realise you've fed them too quick. You know, it's I mean, it's just learning. Do you know what I mean? So
like, like my son, my youngest, is like 10 and a half, and myself and Diona are hopefully going to have kids in the near future. And when we do, I think it's just going to be like starting all over again. Joe, it's like Diona's like, oh, you've done this 3 times, but in my head, I'm like, have I? I can't remember. Joe, I don't remember anything that I'd ever done before. So it is going to be a whole new experience for the two of us. But it's one that I can't wait for as well. I think it'd be great to give my kids a little brother or sister too. I think it would really, you know, like they argue and fight a lot because they're very close in age, and a lot of times it's like, what do you do here? Because they're 10, 12 and 15. We can't go and do what the 15-year-old wants, because the 10 and 12-year-olds are going to complain and be like, I don't like this, or I don't want to do this, or it's too strenuous, or too far a walk, or whatever it may be. But then you don't want to do something the 10-year-old wants to do, because the 12 and 15-year-olds are like, this is babyish, or this is, you know.
See,
so
working with the
trying
age
to find,
changes.
But then with a wee toddler, I think they're just going to be like, yeah, let's do that, let's do what he wants or she wants, or, you know, hopefully, yeah. But having 3 boys too, I would love a little baby girl, but at the same time too, as long as it's got 2 arms and legs and it's healthy, it just,
that's it, man.
Whatever else, it doesn't matter. Like I remember, maybe 2 or 3 weeks after my first son was born, just being like, oh, he's a boy. Joe, it just doesn't enter your head at the time. You're just like, there's so much going on. It just didn't take it in at the time. But it's something I look forward to immensely, and hopefully the near future, like, fingers crossed.
Awesome, man. Yeah. Awesome. So what's the next big thing for you?
The next big thing? Probably my lunch after this podcast. I'm doing a solo show in Armagh, which I've maybe only done twice before. I don't usually do solo shows. I usually just get booked for gigs and corporate things and hosting and things like that. So
for someone who's not, what do you mean by solo show?
Solo show is just me on stage doing like an hour and a half material. So it's like if you were to buy my DVD, it would be of this. Do you know what I mean? That kind of thing. So I'm going to make it a family affair though. My Diona's been doing stand up now for about a year. So she's going to be my support act. So she'll come out and do 15-20 minutes, warm the audience up, maybe get a bit of a break, and then I'll just do an hour and 20, hour and 30, whatever it may be. And it's just sort of a collection of my material that I've been performing at different things over the past maybe 2 or 3 years. So it's just like the best of, all coming together. So doing a bit of work for that at the minute. I've just recently done... And
sorry, see in terms of, you've only did it once or twice before. I mean, what is so difficult about a solo show?
Selling tickets, I think, is the most difficult thing. Okay. Trying to get people to figure, like, to know what your style of comedy is, because a lot of people now are like, oh, there's comedy on, let's go and watch this. Do you know what I mean? But you wouldn't go into a record shop and go, oh, there's music, buy the CD. You research it, you figure out what you like and what you don't like. And by the way, that analogy was, I think Paul Curry, a comedian, posted something about that about a year or 2 ago, where it was like, I think he was doing the Edinburgh Fringe and people were coming into his show off the street, and he just does this wacky, absurd genre of comedy that you just can't even put into a box, and he's phenomenal. And he was annoyed because people were just coming into his show and just being like, oh, this is comedy. And it's like, well, no, you can't just do that. You can't just go to a Stormzy gig and go, get your guitar out, mate. It's not... That's not how it works. Mm-hmm. Comedy is like music, where it has its own genres. You have to sort of do a bit of research before you go and see something. Mm-hmm. It's different if you go to like a normal like comedy club, because you'll get 4 or 5 different types of comedy throughout the night. Do you know what I mean? So then that's a good way of sort of figuring out what it is you like, or who you like, or who you're going to follow in their career. But for me, I feel like as well, it may be a bit harder for me to sell tickets because I don't put much stand-up material online.
Okay.
My stuff's all like music videos and parody things and just silly characters and things like that. So if people come to my stand-up, don't go expecting that, because it's not that at all. It's me doing stand-up comedy, but it's all like one-liners and almost like Tim Vine. You know, that's probably the nearest person who you could compare me to in terms of like the style of jokes and stuff. You know, because it's all just like quick one-liners. So it's trying to find your audience and them trying to find you. I find myself too where if you like, sometimes I put like I on Facebook I have like 50 something thousand followers, and on Twitter I have like 5,000 maybe, and I would put a joke up on Twitter and then put a joke up on Facebook and just sort of look at the difference. And on Facebook it could get maybe 500 or 600 likes, maybe more, maybe less, and then on Twitter you probably get like 5 to 10 retweets, maybe sometimes not
Completely
even,
different
and you're
audience.
like, whereas it's like, if I'm this person who's just on Twitter, I'd be beating myself up over it every day going, why am I not getting this audience? But you know, it's not that you don't have the audience, it's that the audience don't have you. They haven't found you yet. Do you know what I mean? But you just keep doing what you're doing, and eventually it'll all work out and you'll have the following you want.
I mean, you see, even on different platforms, for me, it's
you're bound to have one that's your favorite. Is it the one that you probably get the most traction from?
So, I mean, for me, again, a lot of this here stuff is about the process and how it works. So I'm constantly trying to figure out what works. So I'm going from the technical video perspective a lot of the time. So, for instance, one of the new things I recently did, so I'm constantly going, how does this work? Why does this video work better on such and such? And what works whenever you're doing this audience? So from a technical perspective, I literally have a list that's constantly changing in my head for each thing, from not genres but more technical stuff for video. And trying to keep up to date with that as well is difficult too. So for instance, LinkedIn recently figured out, don't do thumbnails, you upload a video, black screen, you know, and now our clients are starting to ask more in terms of stuff. But I totally get where you're coming from in terms of different audiences and different platforms, because you upload a video on one platform, it doesn't even, nobody looks at it for us sometimes. You know, it's just
I'd say at the time as well, when I first started, sort of I like put everything in my Facebook page, and I was like, this is my business now, this is what I'm going to do. And what I seen a lot of comedians do in more recent times, which I didn't do, was get people to move over to other platforms. Whereas I just kept everyone on Facebook. I was all, I've got you on Facebook. You know, I had loads on Snapchat, I think, as well. But then they were the first two that sort of went down, you know. So I feel like every day now, people are leaving my page, but I think it's people who are deactivating their Facebook accounts.
Because they're maybe changing platforms or something.
Terrible,
I mean,
do you know what I mean?
One of the things I heard Chandra say at the Power Video was, it was all of those things. Stick, first of all, when you start out, stick to one platform, and then go to, if you want to, then start, once you have everyone on your platform, spread it out, and then take that platform and encourage people to go to the other ones, to build that.
That's one thing I didn't do, and I'm just stuck with all these people now on Facebook, and find it hard to get people. I almost don't even upload much content on Instagram or Twitter, because I'm like, what's the point? It doesn't get much. Do you know what I mean? I think Twitter's good if you have already been in a TV show or you're working alongside someone big who's.
I find Twitter's really good for the news people, journalists and stuff. Politicians.
It's topical. That's it. It's topical. All you've 30 seconds of fame almost.
That's it. Like.
Let's get up and down.
Thanks for joining us on the show. For anyone else out there, if you want to follow Sean, go check out his Facebook page, Sean Hegarty. Just search for Sean
Hegarty comedian.
Sean Hegarty
comedian. It's the actual handle, but Sean Hegarty. Just you'll find it. If you want to find it, you'll find it.
Brilliant.
That's how I said.
If you like the podcast, hit that subscribe button. And this podcast was produced by BNL Productions, so go give them a wee follow too. Thanks for watching, guys.
Down in one.
Go for it. No, not happening.
I'll pass out. I'll choke.
All right, okay.
Get up and dad. Or get up and mum if you're a female.
That's it.